In the first video, we talked about how evangelism means good news, and how as people who've experienced the good news of Jesus, we are now messengers of it. In the last video, we talked about how sharing the words of that good news isn't an obligation or duty, but just the natural reaction we have to the great compassion and love we've experienced from God in our own lives. But are there other ways to share the good news without specifically talking about it? Remember, evangelism is about pivoting your whole life, not just the conversations you have with your friends. In Matthew 5:13, Jesus told his followers to be salty. Not this kind of salty, this kind of salty. Salt enhances the flavor of our food. It adds to it. It makes it better. If salt doesn't change the flavor of something for the better, then there's no point in using it, right? The message of the good news is the message of God's compassion, grace, and love, shown to us so clearly through the death of his Son on the cross. Jesus' sacrifice has restored everyone who believes in him to a full and abundant relationship with God, where they can experience this compassion, grace, and love every moment of every day. It's not just a message of some promise of heaven after we die. It's a message of heaven now as we experience the full and abundant life God wants to give us. That's some good salt that could be so beneficial and maybe even life-saving to people in our world. And so, every time we act out compassion, grace, and love, we are sprinkling a little salt on the lives of those who are on the receiving or even noticing end of it. In Matthew 5:14-16, Jesus said, "You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." If we have the light of the good news inside of us, how does it shine out? Through our actions, through our good deeds. We tend to think of a good deed as something random we do when the opportunity arises, like carrying groceries across the street for an older person, raking a neighbor's leaves, or helping out at a soup kitchen over the holidays. But what Jesus was talking about is so much more than that. The word for these deeds in the original language means actions that carry out or complete an inner desire, intention, or purpose. And the word for good is a good that is attractive, a good that draws and inspires others to embrace the goodness. So when our intention or purpose is to bring others to experience the compassion, grace, and love of God, then we, through every action, not just specific deeds, through our entire lifestyle, act out that compassion, grace, and love. The more we taste and absorb the goodness of God, the more it affects us and transforms us to live the goodness of God. Not that we live some holy, perfect life where we never sin or make a mistake, but that we just start naturally spreading more of that salty compassion, grace, and love wherever we go. We just naturally become a lamp shining in the dark that attracts people to move toward its source. The people who know you may not be interested in talking about Jesus, but they won't be able to help wondering what's wrong with a person who responds to hatred with compassion. They won't know what to do with a person who forgives someone who clearly wronged them. And they might even start to question their own beliefs when they see someone go out of their way to show love to someone who doesn't deserve it.